I know. I can see your ID tag in your breast pocket.
Along with a half-eaten roll of wintergreen lifesavers.
When I work in these DC properties, I like to, in as much as possible, populate the secondary and tertiary roles with other characters from the DC universe. We needed a scientist type, so I thought, okay, we can throw in Emil Hamilton.
Dr. Hamilton does appear in the comic strip starting in 1985, and he comes in various incarnations. First of all, he had a big head of hair, so immediately I thought, oh good, they're creating a new interpretation. He's first introduced as a very good friend to Superman, who helped him quite a bit. In other incarnations, he comes back as an enemy. The attempt to contemporize a story that's been iconic and told again for a newer audience is of course necessary. But what's impressive about this production is that they're not losing the very germ of why it was created in the first place.
There were other nods to the comic book universe wherever it made sense.
Pete Ross, I'd like to talk to you about an accident that occurred when you were younger, a school bus that went into the river.
Pete Ross is extremely different in this version. He's a bully. In the comic books, he's Clark's friend.
In our mind, even though we were never explicit about this, Pete Ross knew Clark was Superman. He just never told anyone. We liked the idea that there were people in Smallville, not just Pete, but maybe Lana, who was, his first girlfriend, a few others who probably knew Clark was Superman because they'd seen things over the years, or they'd heard things, and that kind of tracked with when Clark decided to introduce himself to the world, that sort of filled in the gaps for them. And we liked the fact that there probably was this open secret amongst some of the people in Smallville.
Where are you from? What are you doing here? Let me tell your story.
What if I don't want my story told?
It always bothered me in the comic books when Lois Lane is interviewing Superman. She says, "So you're from Krypton, huh?" And he says, "Yeah." And she says, I'm paraphrasing, "Cool." And that's it. Wait a minute. He's an alien, and he just said he's from another planet. So there's like intelligent life out there in the universe, and everybody just kind of accepts the fact, oh yeah, this guy's an alien, and it's cool. If the world found out that he were an alien on Earth, and that there had been, at least at one time, a planet with intelligent life, that would in itself be the biggest story that ever hit mankind.
I think early on we realized that Krypton was going to play a much bigger role than just being an environment that part of the film takes place in, but in many ways is a character. The canon's always been rich with Kryptonian history and culture and story, but cinematically, I don't know that it's ever been explored in the way that we had the opportunity to explore it.
Do you not understand? Krypton's core is collapsing. We may only have a matter of weeks. I warned you. Harvesting the core was suicide.
From the comics I've read, I felt like a lot of the dystopian view of Krypton and the Kryptonians, which this film heavily rides on at the beginning, there were a lot of details that were being pulled from John Byrne's miniseries that he wrote and drew in the 80s. That was a new thing back then. John Byrne's reimagining was they kind of screwed their ecology up. They don't have natural childbirth, their birth is all just like the Genesis Chamber. But I remember feeling like it's interesting it's called Man of Steel because that's just what he called his series, and it was this nice reimagining that DC Comics relied on for years as the updating of the origin at that time.
It's a very good and appropriate kind of parallel to look at Krypton as the kind of ultimate expression of the way that we see what's happening to Earth. So you're allowing the audience a way into Krypton in this kind of extreme expression of self-destruction.
We look around us in our world as it is now, and regardless of how many people deny what is fundamentally obvious, there's something changing. We're not just talking about, the gigantic concept of shifting weather patterns. We're talking